Hello, my name is Mara Crow, and today I will be talking about the mythology of the Egyptian myth, the girl with the rose red slippers. So, first, I will do a quick retelling of the story just to move it along. The story starts in ancient Egypt before it fell, and in the Pharaoh of Egypt gave the fleeing Greeks from war their own city called Naucratis, where there was a wealthy merchant called Carosus. And when he was in the market, he found a beautiful slave that was drawing everyone's attention in the market and bought her up. When he sat down with her, he found out she was taken from north of Greece and that her name was Rhodopis. And once he did that, he treated her like her own daughter and showered her in riches from his own success. Later on a different day, Rhodopis was relaxing in her private garden when an eagle swooped down into the garden. And when the eagle did that, it took the one of the rose red slippers from her and flew off. Rhodopis was devastated that she lost it, and as the eagle went off, he deposited the slipper into the pharaoh's lap. The pharaoh looked over the shoe and decided that it was the most delicate thing, and whoever owned it was going to be a very special woman. He demanded his guards that they must scour the land to find her and that he will make her his bride. The guards find Rhodopis in the city of Naucratis and confirmed that she was the owner of the slipper. They take her back to the palace, and she becomes not only the pharaoh's bride, but also the queen of Egypt. Now, the main elements that make this story very mythic is the fact, or these just basic five. The fact that it has Etic explanation and encoding of the land at the start of it. Heroes Gamos is within it, which is like the sacred marriage. The prime dyad is very prevalent in this story, and then it has the Cinderella tale type. First, the encoding of the land is very significant in the original telling I found. It is very significant, especially in this like example where in Naucratis, not far from the mouth of the Nile that flows into the Sea of Canopus, that is showing exactly where this story takes place in Egypt, since all these places, since the Nile is in existence, and I think Canopus was in existence potentially or is still in existence, and so having these details like that show wanting to people when they see these like this specific instance of the Nile, people will be shown and think about the fact that that story existed, and they will be reminded by seeing this specific area of the Nile. And then the Etic explanation is specifically a Etic explanation is the explanation that storytellers tell or use to inform people who are not within the community that they're telling this to. There's a couple explanations. Specifically at the start, the story starts within the last days of ancient Egypt and state how like they were like being attacked by Persia, and Persia was just ruining the lands of many other kingdoms. That's a very Etic explanation because people who live in Egypt would know that kind of already in the context, but since potentially this story got out to people who wouldn't have lived in Egypt or lived in this community, they tell this way. They do have another one where they explain the context for Carthosis, which is his true home was in the island of Lesbos, and the famous poet of Sappho was his sister, which is a well-known figure and kind of gives explanation to what is happening here and like how he's important technically. Now, the prime dyad is really important to most stories, and it's very obvious in this story too, when we see Carthosis see Rhodopis and decides to take her. And he does that because he realizes she needs to rescue her. And that's very well shown in the examples on the screen. She was obviously a Greek with white skin and cheeks like blushing roses, and Carthosis caught his breath, for he had never seen anyone so lovely. But even more, even like he doesn't realize that he's rescuing her and stuff like that when he finds out she was stolen from her land, and that's a very chaotic thing to do, which is in the triad of cosmos and chaos. And to bring back order, which is cosmos, he decides to rescue her and bring her back. But especially with realizing she was stolen, he treats her like his own daughter, which is a very good example of how chaos is prevalent in the story, but like it is brought back to order with the cosmos of that. And another great example, even it's really small, is when the eagle swoops down into the garden. And so Rhodopis is not alone in this one, and she has slave girls with her. And so when the eagle swoops down, everyone is in chaos. Like as it shows, Attack of the Ground Pool, the slave girls drop everything, and they were holding and flee and shrieking among the trees and flowers of the garden. That is a very chaotic thing because people don't scream out of terror in normal order or that. So it's a very chaotic thing to cause that. And so the eagle is creating chaos in this situation. Now, the Heroes Gamos is not super prevalent, but it is still there with the fact that um, Rhodopis and then the pharaoh get married. And it's very specifically sacred, especially since like the eagle did it and is stated in the story by here, but the eagle seemed to be sent by the gods, perhaps by Horus himself, whose sacred bird he was. And that is main reason of Heroes Gamos, because they get married in the end because of this divine intervention of the gods. And so thus, because they end up getting married and even she becomes the queen, it's very obvious that it was intervention. It was a sacred marriage that was blessed by the gods. And now the last major mythic element, our tale, is the tale type of the story. Cinderella is not a new story, but there are elements in it that can make each story different. And especially since in this story, it has these major elements with like the special slippers comparatively to like having these rose red slippers are very important, very descriptive, and very much delicate and natural looking. And the fact that other parts of it is the man, the pharaoh, sees the slipper and declares to his people, his guards, that he needs to find the woman who this slipper belongs to and marry her. And then once the couple are reunited, they are married at the end. And a great example is when at once Pharaoh looks over the slipper and takes a great look at it, he announces to his court and to his guards to go do this. Let them take them this rose red slipper, which the divine bird of Horus has brought me, and let them declare that her from whose foot this slipper shall be the bride of the Pharaoh. And that is a very classic tale type of like, he found this shoe. He thinks the woman is beautiful from the shoe because of how delicate it is, and thus he shall be wed to whoever it is found. And that's very mythic because it's tale types are very important to stuff like that because it allows people to have like stories that are important to them and have this kind of ideas of like what structure is coming with them. All my story came from this one bibliography with this one story, and it was really well good retelling and very long, much longer. So if you want to take a look at the description. Thank you for your time, and I hope